Why the Himalayas create disasters far away. The Himalayas don't just kill people who go near them. That would be too obvious. Too honest. No, the Himalayas prefer long-distance damage. They sit quietly, pretending to be scenic, while ruining lives thousands of kilometers away, like a crime boss who never leaves his chair but somehow controls the entire city. If you think a mountain range can't hurt you unless you climb it, congratulations. You have fallen for the oldest lie in geography. Because the Himalayas don't need to move towards you. They move the planet around you instead. First, let's get one thing straight. The Himalayas are not a barrier. They are not a wall. They are not a passive pile of rocks. They are an active system, still forming, still shifting, still angry. India is still slamming into Eurasia at about 5 centimeters per year, which is slow enough to sound harmless and fast enough to destroy continents over time. That collision doesn't just make tall mountains. It reprograms Earth's atmosphere, rivers, weather, and disaster patterns. You are not dealing with scenery. You are dealing with infrastructure on a planetary scale. 1. The Himalayas hijack the sky. Let's start with the air, because that's where the damage begins. The Himalayas rise high enough to punch the atmosphere in the face and say, "Go around." Warm, moisture-heavy winds from the Indian Ocean try to move north. They hit the Himalayas. And the Himalayas say no. So the air is forced upward, cools rapidly, and dumps obscene amounts of rain. This is how the Indian monsoon works. Not because of magic, not because of seasons, but because the Himalayas act like a giant climate crowbar. Now, here's the part people don't like to think about. If the monsoon shifts even slightly, millions of people starve or flood. Too much rain? Crops rot. Cities drown. Rivers overflow like they've been insulted. Too little rain? Drought. Crop failure. Water riots. The Himalayas don't cause weather. They decide who gets punished by it. And climate change is now messing with this system, meaning the Himalayas are no longer enforcing stable rules, they're enforcing chaos. 2. Rivers that start as snow and end as weapons. Most of South Asia's major rivers don't begin as rivers. They begin as snow with ambition. The Indus, the Ganga, the Brahmaputra, the Yangtze, the Mekong, all born in or near the Himalayas. Which means the drinking water, agriculture, electricity, and survival of over 1 billion people depends on what happens in one unstable, frozen, earthquake-ridden region. No pressure. Glaciers here act like natural water banks, slow release, predictable flow. Or at least, they used to. Now glaciers are melting faster, forming unstable glacial lakes held back by walls of ice and loose rock. These lakes don't leak. They burst. When a glacial lake outburst flood happens, it doesn't politely flood downstream villages. It sends a high-speed wall of water, rock, and debris that erases infrastructure, destroys dams, and rearranges river channels, sometimes hundreds of kilometers away. People die without ever seeing the mountain that killed them. 3. The domino effect of landslides. Earthquakes and extreme rain in the Himalayas don't stop at the mountains. They destabilize slopes. Those slopes collapse into rivers. Those rivers get blocked. Temporary lakes form. Then those lakes fail. And suddenly, a city far downstream is experiencing a natural disaster that actually started weeks ago at altitude, where nobody was watching closely enough. This is the Himalayas' favorite trick: delayed consequences. By the time disaster hits the plains, the cause is already gone, buried under debris, snow, and denial. 4. The silt problem no one talks about. The Himalayas are young mountains, which means they erode aggressively. They shed rock, soil, and sediment like a living thing, losing skin. That sediment ends up in rivers. Those rivers carry it downstream. And then it settles. In dams. In canals. In riverbeds. Rivers rise higher, but not because of more water. Because their bottoms are filling up. So when heavy rain hits, rivers overflow faster, flood wider, and destroy more. The disaster doesn't look mountainous. It looks like bad drainage, which makes it easier to blame governments, cities, or poor planning. Meanwhile, the real culprit is a mountain range casually dumping its leftovers downstream, 5. Earthquakes that set future traps. When the Himalayas shake, they don't just damage buildings. They create future disasters. Earthquakes crack glaciers. They weaken slopes. They destabilize natural dams. Nothing happens immediately, which is worse, because months or years later, heavy rain arrives, and everything collapses at once. The earthquake becomes invisible. The flood gets blamed. The mountain stays quiet. This is not coincidence. This is stored violence. 6. The Himalayas control temperatures far away. Without the Himalayas, South Asia would be colder and drier. They block cold Central Asian air masses from moving south, which means they act like a thermal shield, change their snow cover, glacier mass, or atmospheric interaction, and temperature patterns shift. Heat waves intensify. Cold snaps behave differently. Seasonal expectations fail. Farmers plant at the wrong time. Harvests collapse. A disaster doesn't need to look violent to be lethal. 7. Dams. Human hubris meets geology. Humans saw Himalayan rivers and thought, power. So we built dams. Big ones. In narrow valleys. On seismic faults. Below unstable slopes. Fed by unpredictable glaciers. What could go wrong? A landslide upstream can send debris into a reservoir, displacing water and causing sudden downstream flooding. A glacial surge can overwhelm spillways. An earthquake can compromise structural integrity without fully collapsing the dam, creating slow, invisible failure. And if a major dam fails, the destruction doesn't stop at national borders. Water doesn't respect flags. 8. Why disasters feel random but aren't. To someone living far away, these disasters feel disconnected. A flood here, a drought there, a landslide somewhere else. But zoom out. They are symptoms of the same system being pushed beyond stability. The Himalayas are a central node. Stress them, and consequences ripple outward. Like pulling one brick from a wall that supports half the house. 9. The most dangerous part? Time lag. The Himalayas operate on delay. What happens today might not hurt anyone this year or this decade, but it will. Ice melt today decides floods tomorrow. Sediment today decides river behavior years later. Earthquakes today decide landslides later. This makes accountability impossible and preparation politically inconvenient, which is exactly how disasters survive. 10. The final lie. People think disasters are sudden. They are not. They are slow decisions meeting fast physics. The Himalayas don't wake up angry one day. They respond to warming, to construction, to deforestation, to pressure. And when they respond, they don't aim locally. They aim downstream, downwind, downriver, down the chain of consequences. So when a flood hits a city far from the mountains, when crops fail in the plains, when a dam breaks without warning, don't ask, what went wrong here? Ask, what changed in the Himalayas years ago? Because that's where the disaster was born, quietly, patiently, and very far away.